Discover Zanzibar, one of Africa's beautiful islands. Hello explorers, welcome to another interesting video presented to you by The Explorer, and thanks for watching. Islands are seen as natural incubators, what most of the beauty and elegance of the world has to offer us. Spotted with some of the most exotic of them, the beauty of the African continent is still an ongoing discovery. In this video, we shall discover one of Africa's beautiful islands, Zanzibar. Zanzibar is an insular autonomous region of Tanzania composed of the Zanzibar archipelago in the Indian Ocean, off the coast of the mainland, and consists of many small islands and two large ones, Unguja, which is the main island, referred to informally as Zanzibar, and Pemba Island. The capital is Zanzibar City, located on the island of Unguja, and its historic center is Stone Town, a World Heritage Site. This island is the true definition of a struggle before stability, as its road to becoming current Zanzibar has been nothing short of incredible stories. To fully enjoy the tale of this auspicious island, we have to dive far back, more than 20,000 years ago. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to subscribe and turn notifications so you don't miss any of our videos. The presence of microliths suggests that Zanzibar has been home to humans for at least 20,000 years, which was the beginning of the later Stone Age. Zanzibar, like the nearby coast, was settled by Bantu speakers at the time of the outset of the first millennium, as archaeological findings at Fukuchani on the northwest coast of Zanzibar indicate a settled agricultural and fishing community from the 6th century at the latest. The considerable amount of daub found indicates timber buildings, and shell beads, bead grinders, and iron slag have been found at the site. Trade rapidly increased in importance and quantity, beginning in the mid-8th century, and by the close of the 10th century, Zanzibar was one of the central Swahili trading towns. Houses were originally built with timber and later in mud with coral walls, then continually rebuilt with more permanent materials. By the 13th century, houses were built with stone and bonded with mud, and the 14th century saw the use of lime to bond stone, especially by the wealthier patricians. According to John Middleton and Mark Horton, the architectural style of these stone houses has no Arab or Persian elements and should be viewed as an entirely indigenous development of local vernacular architecture. Before the Portuguese arrival, the southern towns of Unguja Uku and Kizimkazi and the northern town of Tumbatu were the dominant centers of exchange, and Zanzibar was just one of the many autonomous city-states that dotted the East African littoral. Vasco da Gama's visit in 1498 marked the beginning of European influence, as the Portuguese arrived in East Africa, where they found several independent towns on the coast, with Muslim Arabic-speaking elites. While the Portuguese travelers described them as black, they made a clear distinction between the Muslim and non-Muslim populations. Their relations with these leaders were mostly hostile, but during the 16th century, they firmly established their power and ruled with the aid of tributary sultans. The Portuguese presence was relatively limited, leaving administration in the hands of pre-existing local leaders and power structures. This system lasted until 1631, when the Sultan of Mombasa massacred the Portuguese inhabitants, which caused the Portuguese to appoint European governors. In 1698, Zanzibar came under the influence of the Sultanate of Oman, which resulted in a brief revolt against Omani rule in 1784. Local elites invited Omani merchant princes to settle on Zanzibar in the first half of the 19th century, preferring them to the Portuguese. In 1832 or 1840, Said bin Sultan, Sultan of Muscat and Oman, moved his capital from Muscat, Oman, to Stone Town. But after Said's death in June 1856, his two sons divided the area. The Sultans developed an economy of trade and cash crops in the Zanzibar archipelago, with a ruling Arab elite where ivory was a major trade good. The archipelago, sometimes referred to by locals as the Spice Islands, was famous worldwide for its cloves and other spices, and plantains were developed to grow them. The archipelago's commerce gradually fell into the hands of traders from the Indian subcontinent, whom Said bin Sultan encouraged to settle on the islands. During his 14-year reign as Sultan, Majid bin Said consolidated his power around the East African slave trade. One of Majid's brothers, Bargash bin Said, succeeded him and was forced to abolish the slave trade in the Zanzibar archipelago by the British. Control of Zanzibar eventually came into the hands of the British Empire. Part of the political impetus for this was the 19th century movement for the abolition of slave trade. In 1856, Sultan Majid consolidated his power around the African Great Lakes slave trade, and in 1873, Sir John Kirk informed his successor, Sultan Bargash, that a total blockade of Zanzibar was imminent, and Bargash reluctantly signed the Anglo-Zanzibari Treaty, which abolished the slave trade in the Sultan's territories, closed all slave markets, and protected liberated slaves. In 1890, Zanzibar became a protectorate of Britain, meaning it continued to be under the sovereignty of the Sultan of Zanzibar. From 1890 to 1913, traditional viziers were in charge, supervised by advisors appointed by the Colonial Office. But in 1913, a switch was made to a system of direct rule through residents. The death of the pro-British Sultan, Hamad bin Tuwaini, on 25 August 1896, and the succession of Sultan Khalid bin Bargash, whom the British did not approve of, led to the Anglo-Zanzibar War. On the morning of 27 August 1896, ships of the Royal Navy destroyed the Beit al-Hukum Palace. A ceasefire was declared 38 minutes later, and to this day, the bombardment stands as the shortest war in history. On the 10th of December 1963, the protectorate that had existed over Zanzibar since 1890 was terminated by the United Kingdom. The UK did not grant Zanzibar independence because the UK had never had sovereignty over Zanzibar. Rather, by the Zanzibar Act 1963 of the UK ended the protectorate and made provision for full self-government in Zanzibar as an independent country within the Commonwealth. Upon the protectorate being abolished, Zanzibar became a constitutional monarchy within the Commonwealth under the Sultan. Wildlife. The main island of Zanzibar, Unguja, has a fauna reflecting its connection to the African mainland during the last ice age. Endemic mammals with continental relative include the Zanzibar red colobus, one of Africa's rarest primates, with perhaps only 1,500 existing isolated on this island for at least 1,000 years. This colobus is recognized as a distinct species with different coat patterns, calls, and food habits from related colobus species on the mainland. The Zanzibar red colobus lives in a wide variety of drier areas of coastal thickets and coral rag scrub, as well as mangrove swamps and agricultural areas. About 1/3 of them live in and around Jozani Forest. Rare native animals include the Zanzibar leopard, which is critically endangered, and the recently described Zanzibar Seveline genet. There are no large wild animals in Unguja, as forested areas such as Jozani are inhabited by monkeys, bush pigs, small antelopes, African palm civets, the elusive leopard, and various species of mongoose can also be found on the island. There is a wide variety of bird life and a large number of butterflies in rural areas. Economy. Ancient pottery implies trade routes with Zanzibar as far back as the time of the ancient Assyrians. Cloth, which originated from the Moluccan Islands, was introduced to Zanzibar by the Omani Sultans in the first half of the 19th century. And Zanzibar, mainly Pemba Island, was the world's leading cloth producer then, but annual cloth sales plummeted by 80% since the 1970s. Zanzibar cloth industry has been crippled by a fast-moving global market, international competition, and a hangover from Tanzania's failed experiment with socialism in the 1960s and 70s, when the government controlled clove prices and exports. Zanzibar now ranks a distant third, with Indonesia supplying 75% of the world's cloves, compared to Zanzibar's 7%. Zanzibar exports spices, seaweed, fine raffia, and the Zanzibar State Trading Corporation, Zanj Spice Limited, also known as 1001 Organic, is the biggest organic spice exporter in Zanzibar. Zanzibar also has a large fishing and dugout canoe production. Tourism is a major foreign currency earner, and the government of Zanzibar legalized foreign exchange bureau on the islands before mainland Tanzania moved to do so. The effect was to increase the availability of consumer commodities. The government has also established a free port area which contributes to economic diversification, as well as stimulate the establishment of support services. It also provides administration of the regime that imports, exports, and warehouses general merchandise, adequate storage facilities, and other infrastructure to cater for effective operation of trade and creation of an efficient management system for effective re-exportation of goods. The island's manufacturing sector is limited mainly to import substitution industries such as cigarettes, shoes, and processed agricultural products. There is also a possibility of oil availability in Zanzibar on the island of Pemba, and efforts have been made by the Tanzanian government and Zanzibar Revolutionary Government to exploit what could be one of the most significant discoveries in recent memory. Oil would help boost the economy of Zanzibar, but there have been disagreements about dividends between the Tanzanian mainland and Zanzibar, the latter claiming the oil should be excluded in union matters. Tourism. Tourism in Zanzibar includes the tourism industry and its effects on the islands of Unguja, known internationally as Zanzibar, and Pemba in Zanzibar, a semi-autonomous region in the United Republic of Tanzania. Tourism is the top income generator for the islands, outspacing even the lucrative agricultural export industry, and providing roughly 25% of income. The main airport on the island is Zanzibar International Airport, though many tourists fly into Dar es Salaam and take a ferry to the island. Zanzibar has recorded more than double the number of tourists into the island since 2016, which is a double-edged sword to the island as it has led to an increase in income, but also presents significant environmental problems. Communities have witnessed increasing environmental degradation and faced reduced access to the marine and coastal resources that are the center of tourist activity. Culture. Zanzibar's most famous event is the Zanzibar International Film Festival, also known as the Festival of the Dhow Countries. Every July, this event showcases the best of the Swahili coast art scene, including Zanzibar's favorite music, Tarab. Important architectural features in Stone Town are the Livingstone House, the old dispensary of Zanzibar, the Guliani Bridge, Ngome Kongwe, and the House of Wonders. The town of Kidichi features the Hammamni Persian baths built by immigrants from Shiraz, Iran during the reign of Bargash bin Said. Zanzibar also is the only place in Eastern African countries to have the longest settlement houses, formerly known as Michinzani Flats, which were built by the aid from East Germany during the 1970s to solve housing problems in Zanzibar. There you have it, explorers. That was Zanzibar, one of Africa's most beautiful islands. Thanks for watching this video, and if you did enjoy this video, do well to give it a thumbs up. Do not forget to subscribe and share with your friends.